Ana shubana sanga zudi chela kashura daji 퇴삼 곰숨기 관에 냠내 샤디 담보지 라마 담배 군두일래야 라마 담배 친이들 되면 때 딘든 당화슈 엔 당화슈베 된데 소소랑기베 냠내 체제 냠내를 체제는 아주지 퇴삼 곰숨고 이제게 냠내 체과 딱 계신거래 다 쉬야 충송 다 진짜베지 퇴삼 곰숨 사기 다 퇴섬 검숨들이야. 다 근지 마 드셔를 시켜위나. 그래요나서.
So this morning we talked about the necessity to study, reflect and meditate. And this also first by finding an authentic teacher and then studying with that authentic teacher, receiving instructions from that teacher, and after receiving the instructions, we need to practice that. So we talked about that this morning. And now, what is study, reflection and meditation? I would like to discuss a little bit about that now.
지단계 퇴바사adam 나도 슬라우나 퇴바사디 지단계에 퇴바체스 주사는다 아주 망부지기 가루에 도두슬람 퇴바체스 주사는 라마망비 군düne 최기 남장 망부시지 슈투바당 안에 최망부지 가루에 소투바 임비냐 collect similar collect 아마 제도 의미냐 네 투중기 시럽 양다버지 예 규라 마제베체 에네베 퇴점 아나 암조로 고점다 아나 퇴점 드데이비나 다트 퇴바선에 마도베 데라데 투중기 시럽 마제바 다트 데야요레스
Some people think that the study means that we go and receive many different types of teachings from many different lamas, somewhat like collecting teachings. This not necessarily will bring the wisdom that comes out of study. So therefore, the study that brings wisdom to us is not just collecting various types of teachings.
Listening, wisdom, summary.
Wisdom. Yes.
Well, wisdom that arises.
The wisdom that arises out of study is not just having lots of teachings collected.
다 될래야. 배나 아주지 최망부시 퇴비네야. 최망부시 퇴비네야. 망 카시에는 카시에 맞제비네야. 괴베 튀리야. 태암매베들이야. 바다 남산지. 이제 시에된 바. 다 구두리야. 미젬바들. 리온이요. 다디주 바지 퇴바자 마도베. 튀중기 시럽 매베 교연이지.
When we listen to teachings, sometimes we tend to forget them. And after, sometimes even if we don't forget those teachings, when we really need those teachings, then it doesn't come up. We don't remember them. So this kind of studies or this kind of teachings that have received does not bring the wisdom, the thupa, or what we call this, the study that we talk about, study, reflection, and meditation, is something that needs to bring that wisdom, the wisdom of the studies. And so therefore, if we do like that, then it doesn't bring that wisdom.
이당 벽에는 봐 태가를 줄샤나 퇴바스야디 listening로 차르면 listening.
If you directly translate Thupa from Tibetan into English, it just means listening.
투중기 시럽스 주자네 하고 변 칠러 다텔 칠러 가르 변 칠더지 차샤비네 주지 칠러지 칠러버 곰차이에 대봐 대 칠디 마제바 롤네 샤라른 조토바 턴도바 턴려야 다 턴기 주적 턴게 토리미냐 베라 추와치네 제베 갑리아 롤 샤라르베 가르르 테네 미제바 유린도 진도버로 다 딘데 shum이미나 델레야 아니 바지 투중기 시럽게 바스 랍조유다.
And that the wisdom that comes out of listening is, that the words, first, that we listen to the words, and then we can remember those words without forgetting. And not just the words, but also the meaning, the real meaning of those words comes to our mind, and it remains in our mind stream and do not really forget. So this is what we call the wisdom that arises out of listening.
제가 퇴밭삼다, 퇴밭사삼다, 투중기 시럽사디, 바지, 이와르비치 쿠니카르비 체고면로.
Maybe it's necessary to separate, to identify just study or listening and the wisdom that brings out of listening or study. So these two things, I think, we need to identify and separate.
다 간다냐 퇴바사데 가르스는 주 강사 시 가르 신도기 강사 신기 더블 되네 지 가르 녜베 시럽저지 주어데 강사 신기 더블 되네 녜베 시럽저지 레샤.
So this thupa is basically the wisdom that is generated in us with the help of some other person, some other person's wisdom that we receive.
인지미 persons나야 나 소변당 롱체말라 되네 다 간다라 제베 신도 인지미지 미지된 인고 말바다 이내야 다 신도스야디 겐신
that based on something other than yourself, that means it can be a teacher or can be something else, but because of that, then you kind of generate that wisdom in ourselves.
다티 퇴바체 다 삼바스도 건너지래서나 다 간다 든제기 지당 그 퇴바짬이 이미나 퇴바짬을 제외 이미나 다 와르 퇴바짬삼 퇴발리아 지변에 고 여와르 마무시 샤추기래 배나 닌주기 관에 예베이네야 베라지 칙 퇴바 칙 년바 퇴 년바 ene chigde niga nyamba sorba da de mamushi chorba da kana dizu ko yawa dam jamri yongchore da khandar yang dinjegi be chögi be chigdang tönle ya dene lobe lama inare da na singi ji kapese inare dinjele dene ne dene 양내 양도 배 장바 채발을 때네 디기 측당 퇴기 고아 야부지 차체 디 야부 차바 좀 시기 배 이침바로 맞아 체제 단동 뒤토알이야 되네 닌다 체도 바로 나 퇴배 엄마 소수 고차배 퇴배 된다 되줄이야 소수 랑독이 거네 다 롱다리 비게비 제네 제야
So the next, the reflection. This is, as we discussed, this study or the Töpa is can be, of course, explained in many different sections, like listening to the words, listening to the meanings, and things like that. Or so, based on that, listening carefully and understanding them, or from a teacher, or maybe we study a book and listening to that book and then study. And so when we have a complete understanding of the subject, whether it's the words, both the words and the meaning of that subject, whether we study it from the teachers or from a book, now this is the reflection is not just living there. After we have understood fully what we have to study, again and again, study and really come to understand that fully, then now from our own wisdom or from our own strength, we reflect on that. Now this is not just relying on somebody else's power, but our own power. We reflect on that again and again and try to understand it very deeply.
다 근데 다제 제일이 왜 뒤에 최가 된다라고 돼 벤디단 디베 냠린 체비미나 아니 빵전 디단 디 봉투도 와스 디단 딜리아베 파 가서에 콤바르 체비미나 되네 이 또베 윤진 디단 디 게사레 냠바르지 텔지 소수기 랑기베 뉴발레 되네 소수 랑기베 남제게 zel라 되네 아니 녜셰 템포르지 녜비 녜네 디 토레야 당노 지 가르에다 딱 한달에 창물로지 소설이야 왜 다베션이 좀 외쳐람지 소설이야 지심 소설을 폐야지당 소설이 심규 경보된 뉴야게 당화제 인발 고니 되니 가르에다 다디 진짜 취해지지 냠소 랜드지 그런 암암 슈슈 삼아라 냠스 랜드게 로베 암암 슈슈기 깨아로지 된데지 충분히미나 아니 바지 섬중기 시럽 깨와스 이제 랍초면
After this examination by yourself on what you have studied and reflecting on that again and again, then you have a clear understanding that if you work on this, if you do this, if you practice this, then this kind of negative things will be subdued. If you practice this or train on this, then this kind of experiences will come. This kind of, so you have a certain clear understanding by your own wisdom and experience, and you have a certain kind of a certainty you get. So when that kind of a certainty you get through understanding and examination and investigation by yourself, when that certainty becomes very clear that if I do this practice, this kind of things will happen, this kind of problems will be solved and things like that, that I think we can call it the wisdom that's generated through reflection.
Today in Dusane, this young tangi töbalya yawachavananshi di sambatline samba zamshidang samjungi shirab gewani kagar shago menos kashegi samsedus danebe töbe tündarab dilya yani yandobe takje chene samdongarabdi yani yando tokju char samdongarabdi sambada redi yimbinya samjungi shirab saadi di tol tandong이네요 가르쳐야지 수럽 탐지 최나는 시에서 정말로 소소를 팬도에 되지당 소소를 배 가족 유도를 지미지 학원에 샘럽에 냠소 랜드 유마체 버르지 되는지 용한데 알지 고메로 섬버지
So as we discussed about study also the just study or just thupa and wisdom that is arisen out of study or thupa. In the same way, we can also categorize the reflection also into two parts, just the reflection and the wisdom that's generated out of reflection. When we talk about just reflection, then whatever we have studied or what we listened, we can reflect on it, we can think about it, we can again go through it. That's reflection, but not necessarily the wisdom of reflection, because when we have the wisdom of the reflection, then it's that we understand clearly the meaning of all these studies that we have done, and that how they would help me to transform myself. And so therefore we get a very strong kind of motivation, very highly motivated and inspired to practice those. So when that kind of a very clear and certain and very strong motivation arises to practice those teachings, that I think can be called the wisdom that's generated out of reflection.
Today in Lusane, Toba, somewhere, Toba, Toba Chawasan and Dando, Chu Kazi Toba in a Tizigi, and a bit Che Dumdu Dang, Nyamsu Landu, Shucher Songne, Ta, Sendi Lu Dang, Karsura Baji, Nuni Nurdobe, November of Jilia Chinje, Church Chanamado, Digmason Sambarji, the Nijigi. Lona Tungdung Samarbataji, the Lona Tungdung Rabaji, Yongo Arabaji, Tendje Chungswana, Tendje Majona, and a Tebe Telea, Sumjungi Shira Mageba, Sumjungi Neshe Mageba, that name, but that name Lusane, Tijun and Deneta, Hashurataji, Jimmy G. Töba zamgen driyo mare, samba zamgen driyo mare. Töba tela tene, go karjwe töbe ngeshi, samarabata töbe shirabya, samba la tene, sambi shirabya, ngeshirab njonga. That is a good.
So, when we study and then reflect, then the certainty has to come. This wisdom has to arise that, this is so important to practice. This is so important and, it's so necessary. There is to practice this, that I must practice this immediately. I must go away to somewhere where there is no disturbance, and then I need to practice the Dharma. And the most important thing for me is to do that and practice Dharma right now, not delay. So this kind of generating this strong motivation and inspiration to practice and clearly understand deeply and practically and experientially the necessity and the use and benefit of these practices, that kind of, what we call that your attachment to the other things or the distractions become less, so your mind becomes very strongly involved and immediate to do the practice. This kind of thing is the result of the examination or the investigation wisdom. So if that is not there, even if you study and if you reflect, then it doesn't really become the wisdom of reflection.
다 진짜기 지 퇴바다 삼바 제외 제라 인지미지다 곰바 제고 아래 대야 아니 퇴바 장마로 곰바 뇽어이나 다디 닝가 잡아요 아래 다디지 가서지 최기 대외 주의스 최기 대사를 저 다디 대스도잖아 ndishire jaayda di inji thol chig la yu girba phege thola chügi thes kan ri ji ta ganda be ji kasure 간다라야 다 간다 퇴바 장망부치 퇴바 망부시비체 ene gom ya de su nyu gom장 gombe 장유유를 차나 된 년가 알았어 최기 태는다 마모제 아 딜레르 임바 딜레레 아 딜레 인사예 엄마디 인사예 삼바라부지다 아다 다리지 벤 다리 숭죄를 지나 아 다리 다리시야 데 데레도와 전주선 동인디 조렌도와 에너지 삼바라부지 딜레르 제파 요샤르마도 딜랑렌라 따르 디바 가르수레지 소수의 미지나로레야 아니 가르레 바 미지나로레 가르수레지 바냐 겐다 세네 아니 고매지 임바지 데 고매지 임바지 데 곰바 데를 도나치아르 용고민도와.
So then the meditation becomes very important after that, after you have made the study and the reflection, because if you do lots of study and then no meditation, then there's a danger that the study becomes too familiar, too saturated, that you become like a fat, kind of filled up with study, but you don't really use it, you don't really experience it. So therefore, you have a certain kind of understanding. You know it's like this, I say this is like this, after that this is like this, and so you know and intellectually understand, and it just becomes an intellectual kind of saturation, and then you cannot put it into your experience. You don't mix it up with your experience and use it, so therefore it really doesn't help you to transform yourself. So there is a danger that if you just remain the study and no practice or no meditation, then that study can just become a problem. It can become just that it is like this. So intellectually you understand it, but you don't know how to use it on your experience when we face difficulties or problems of life. So therefore it becomes not useful.
제상 전제 미용아 체 당보배 퇴바 지dü네 칭용지를 마시비 측증마도 마시비네 니마도 마시비네 간시에바데 장월로 소수익이 심규일에 자네 되네 다나신 냠랜데 자네 소수익이 심규 정보된 뉴에 탑선로 아직당 된 유와 동야기 에 잘라로 차 딘데기 체도 배주 동거야디 개좀 시라래샤 다나신 아주 배는 벽에라 곰사데 곰바스두스다네 인지겔션 하벳이라고 지르바 하벳 말왜 제자 아주 디 곰시 태버지당 남균이지 수수 미지기 배 가르르다지 니머리 미지기 차셰도지 차투야르지 드르진 배주 체제 니머질이야 남식이 차나 간다 최 생기지다 강사 생기는지 니 매체세 최다 강사 니베 가주어다 냠수 링규 최 그나 전죽sem이라고 재미나 냠수 링규 최 전죽sem에서 파세지 냠수 링겐 강사 내 강사 셈 경보를지 전죽sem다 로가르지 내유에 버지 된제 메인바 전죽sem선에 안라도 랑sem선에 안라도 디니니 주주스 니메바 주주스 찍차도야 알지 된제지 ongo야 됐다 검자와의 좀 된다 여러분 느리지래도
So therefore, because of this reason, because of this danger, that these studies can just become an intellectual thing. So therefore, when we study right from the beginning, whether we understand just one word or we just understand two words, we try to use that what we understand, just 1 point, 2 points, that we need to use it on ourselves, use it on how to subdue our rough mind, how to transform ourselves, how to help ourselves. So when we do that, that's what we call meditation, because meditation is nothing else but, the word gom or gom means to habituate, to become familiarized, to make a habit of it. So therefore, when you meditate, when you make a habit of that, whatever you understand, you use it on yourself, you make it part of your life, then it becomes your life. There is nothing like Dharma practice, a separate part of your life, and your real life is as another separate part. There's no separateness. And not even that, but there is no separate Dharma as a separate thing and you as a separate thing. There is no two things. Yourself becomes the Dharma. Dharma becomes your life. For instance, when you talk about bodhicitta, it doesn't become, a bodhicitta as out there, something else, and then your mind, something else. That you mix your experience with the experience of bodhicitta, so therefore you cannot separate yourself from the bodhicitta or your mind from the bodhicitta. So this kind of way of study or way of practice is extremely important. To use this kind of meditation on the study right from the beginning.
드레 뉴산 단 너는 원이 주바도 가르쳐야지 교화동 거야 그렇지 나최 교화동 거야 그렇지 간다 최해야 돼 소주 잡아 교화당 봐 라고 든지지 된다를 고유하래 제산 뒤준zel 때네 다 간다라 지 교화동하지 다 안지 가르쳐야 봐 소주게 알지 나도 심으래 드레미 준zel 때네 안다 대양 드레미 준산다 다시라만 무시해 먹었지 안다 뭐
that's why the practice of Dharma is what we call Dharma is in Tibetan called Chu. Chu means to change, to transform, to make it better, improve. So therefore it is something that can transform your personality, transform yourself, your mind. So there's nothing more than that. That's Dharma practice. So this is very important to understand, and so therefore there is I don't want to take too much time on this. So now we go to the actual teaching, the torch of certainty.
빼만이죠. 우리 저바상이 교주지 나서는 말해봐. 제가 서로 죄송. 일로도 버신 게로. 내용 말아봐디. 여보지.
나.
내용 말아. 이제 내야 말아.
맞아. 나.
이제 텍스트 내야 돼.
때 만드는 데미.
들어봐. 대야 라레는 밀리터 쇼그르시베 된거디 로셔스로 최람들로 저 로셔스로 잡아라 군적이 인대신 이체베 대바여게 대바대야 치와메다 말은 강토범이 좀 도마르미다 바 공부에 이제 대예서다 세상 알아주 밀리터야레스 밀리터베 띵도 에너지 남바상게베게 최기 걸어 쇼레스 난 남바상게베 최기 걸어 슈베 튼다르데 거버 가르거르사나 로 최스 저지 최 남다르지 왜지 소소소소를 최바 인도도지 최 제발 로마 있네 되는 최 제발 마송나 다들 최치는 거 봐요 말어 근데 인도사나 로 최스 저거스 로 최스 저 제발 가르거르사나 군족이 인데시에 대박 와서 단기 슈베 다나 셔베 슈베나 대박이 개점 된다면 대바대야 치와 미다바 템버시 뭐 중보이나 강투바 민족의 템포를 주고 말했어. 제상 정말 치와 미다바 본거 말했어.
So first that we have attained this precious human life, and that we have not only attained this life of a human being, but we enter into the Dharma. Now, when we enter into the practice of Dharma, we need to make that Dharma practice not just a kind of a seemingly Dharma practice, but a true Dharma practice, a pure Dharma practice. So, in order to make that a real, true Dharma practice that can really transform us, then we need to turn our mind towards the Dharma. And what do you mean by turning our mind towards the Dharma is that what we talked about this morning, that we have devotion and trust and certainty in Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, and that kind of certainty or tepa becomes very important.
다 치와 미다바 시두산에 그러지래. 치와 미다바 시두산에 nga shigre samne khoba dungye ki khan dewe chila chiwa midaba sigmara
and that we need to reflect on the death and impermanence and that death and impermanence is not that I'm going to die and then we feel very sad and sorry about that and filled with kind of a remorse. That's not the reflection of impermanence and death.
치외 지와 잠다 파지 둔두당 둔두래 요아래 양지 록다 진디술래 치외 지와 예버래.
The fear of death is with everybody. Even the animals have fear of death. Even the barbarians and those who have not good view or right view, wrong view, have also the fear of death. And that is nothing very special.
치와 미다바스 두산 조 텐저디 다가다 수수기 다다 밀류 자신이 토베베 인두산 밀류 자신 뭐 토베베 인자 다데 밀류 자신 뭐 토바텔라 뒤주 베디 밀류 자신 린타진 부시 토베베 인자 텔라 때네 가서 된다 침부지 주구야르데 된다 침부지 주알이야 뒤주시라야 말했다 왜 장롱체롱으로 시다야 말해 거두시 용해봐야 말해 장롱체롱 시다야 말해 뒤주베 가서 좋은 거야 근데 이미 인생 때네 안 다자니네 베 가서에 봐지 로나 쓰네 마되봐 다자니네 베 가르쳐지 디 된단 데에 가르쳐 차와 라버치데 다단이네 주변지 고주가 근데 삼도 동안들 치와입니다 말에 고마스고레스.
So then what do you mean by impermanence or reflecting on impermanence? That we have got now this very precious human life, and when we have this very precious human life, it's not going to last forever. We don't know how long it will be there. So therefore, we do not have time, because the time goes second by second, moment by moment. So when we realize the preciousness of our time now, the importance of the time at this time, very clearly that we need to do something at this very moment. So therefore, we cannot delay it. We cannot fit it back to the future. I must do it now. I must do something that I need to do, very useful and very important, and a great kind of action, important action of practice of Dharma, and things that I need to do now. So this kind of understanding or clear motivation that I cannot delay it, I cannot procrastinate, I have to do it now, the most important thing that I need to do in my life. This kind of understanding is what we call the reflection of impermanence.
대간 단동하베 셴팽기 삼바 유den게 셴팽기 삼바 쇼첨부 유den게 나는 정 아주지 지 티버첨부르 셴드윈 치기 전주스마 치기 켈렌사르보다 샘쟁이 된다라베 라메기 전주 주장이 인생 아주 켈렌사레 진짜지 가사 지금 왜네 셰빈 락버르도 다 진짜게 다다랑 걸 룽아 이순기관에 샘제 탐제래야 팬 토야게 고급 렌다 채반데 리지 토여비 인자 단 디베 뒤주베 가르쳐지기는 주수 마땅한 제제 안다디베 돈여버지다 닝부여버지다 디부여버지 베 타다네 제고도 삼바르지 지 현담이라 슉 초와 첨부 준 거로 와 지단 좋아합니다 바디고 년도에 뒤주 공부를 해야 돼 전주 삼바르지 현변 검등해지나 라고 저 년도에 끼점이 다가나 란집이 된다 이는 일레 단도 미신다 삼 체도이나 대외 경기 다디 로드 슉체용으로 로 슉체제 다 돌아다는 정말 소사로지 용그래서
And especially if you have bodhicitta, if you want to do something for the benefit of a larger number of people or all other people, if you have bodhicitta, then it becomes even more urgent because you have the capacity to work for the benefit of all these beings now, but we don't know how long it will last. So therefore, we have no time. We have to do it now. We have to do something very strong, something that really gives result, something that will be very beneficial for lots of people. That kind of a thing we need to do now. So that kind of strong inspiration, strong motivation, it has to bring those very clear and enthusiastic way of wanting to not waste even one moment and immediately act. Because when it is something that you have to do for yourself, for your own just benefit of oneself only, then maybe it is not that urgent. It is not that kind of urgent. But when there is this chance to do a great benefit for so many people, then it becomes even more urgent and even more that you cannot waste time, but you have to act immediately.
미다방 텐존이가 셰발을 되는 게외 휴몽 운주시 자와 당범 다 간다라 미다바 대한 당기 셰발은 시레 미다바다 텐주니가 저바여 인상 텐주니가 마시는 미다바 시야요 말았어. 근데 그 디안 내주서 군인 저바 차들이 인상 텐주니가 등에를 시기인소.
Because when we talk about impermanent, that impermanent, the true impermanent understanding cannot be understood or that experience cannot arise unless we have a very strong understanding or experience of the preciousness of our human life. That's why we talk about precious human life first, we reflect on precious human life, and then on impermanence.
Namo Bhagavate Sumero Kalparamsaya Tathagata Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tatyatha Kalpe Kalpe Ma Shodane Soha Shaya Senje Longden Zeden Demba Nimer Droa Nimer Zamling Yunden Yazui Sham Jumba
제상 텐주니가다 치워미다 바딩이 조 천del의 차위 현차도하게 님볼이야.
So that's why this precious human life, reflection on the precious human life and impermanence, the reflection on impermanence is basically mainly to get out of, to get rid of, to get free from too much attachment to this life, or to this life's unnecessary kind of activities.
다대한 당부 당부 통말 검전이 미고 내게도 맞게 바라 다와게도 저바저도 임밀루 이시노 르모제레 라바데 니브라도 기즈사마데 차랑 동안이 주세 잡아서면 녀에 녀다 때 또금지 동에 코네스에 이다 륜지 몽바 지안고 미시비 든주 최다의 사자는 자 최미대의 사자 신도만 타고데 대다도 얘네 최담이고 라로 뇌윤의 띵인들의 차베因为 최기 나와면 장검다 순검수매 감지대 라짜리 뭐 무디제는 출라는 신기 뭐가 라다지 상계 맞으 민바 민계 구조수기 체미라고 지된 동바 꾸바데서 감계도 렘바시 최를 라가 미조베 룸보단 제대로 최르베 개와메 라랑게 레기나 콩가메와 전유땡이 미고메 제도 다리마 제베 다와젠데 최제 니빌로도 최 넘버 다와지 젠데 미고메 주르고 마조베 그데 다 될래야 에너지 가르로에 대화게 될래야 오늘전에 타버 지당기 밀루 잠실래 밀루 탐제 대긴 주주 삼이 잡아요 말에 밀루 잠다 야 최주베 되는다 대주 대긴 주주 삼이 밀루스 근데 순거로 봐 엔다나시 아 상아 냠래 쳐버려 코랑코랑지 뒤몸이 밑에 순한도가 상아 냠래 쳐 이 다들 시험을 유시다 다 간다 될라 아니 당보디 미콤바 최주발라 미콤베 드니 가르에 네게도 마제베 균zel데네 파와게던데 드니 데이팅도 최주베 튕게 줘봐 주던데 미치나 다 텐조르던데 밀루스
So then, when we reflect on the precious human birth, first we reflect on this the 8 unfavorable states, or 8 states where we are not free to practice Dharma or practice transform ourselves. So these that we are free from these 8 disadvantages. So that is the first, and then we reflect on the conditions, the favorable conditions, that we have 10 favorable conditions, so that we have the right opportunities and conditions to practice Dharma and make this life very useful. So that's the reflection we have to do.
다들 가네즈라 오르스나 가르에 다 제지 가르에 제 신을 거나가라 다들이 다바제 아주 내좀 되면 많지 다들 저기 타와기에다 접어주던 폐셔 가자나는 배 가자 뒤지게주 배 가자 야탐을 뒤지게주 내가 무슨 윤좀 되면 경가래 된좀면 내용으로 내 레그 코라 말에 제가 아니 대긴 조주 상대하래 제가 추르베베 가르르베 리딘 피숨 잡아라데 코라 리딘기 차네 땡 코랑기 차네 추르비야게 튕긴세나라 차긴세나라 아 와다지 가르르에 베 잘라스는 차장베 좀도요.
So most of us, all of us who have gathered here, have the most of this, maybe about 70-80% of us have all these right conditions, all these freedoms and right conditions to practice Dharma. If we don't have that, then we wouldn't be here at this moment. So therefore, all of us have all the facilities, all the right conditions, all the, the precious opportunities to practice the Dharma.
다 된저기 최 뉴백이 류된 토바 이내야 최 넘버 타바지 언제 전에기 최 양타바지 제거나 디딩도 미콤바 주루기 막아바지 거를.
So even if we have that right conditions, right opportunities, all the right kind of positive states and freedom, even then we do not practice Dharma and we do not do the right thing. It's because of 18 other unfavorable conditions. 16.
다 되나야베 조데 도시야난 지금에로 난기겐 섬어베 소수기 조로 삼리노 난기겐 진제기 관에 미콤바 치겐기 관에 미콤바 제상 다 진데 다 당부 난기 겐선한란도 난게베 소수기 삼동다레 다와 계단레 진제게 토네 에네 가수에 쳬바레 진제게 토네 미콤바 다 주루가래.
So although we have all these outer right conditions, then the 16 conditions is more like inner conditions.
말해. 아마 진짜 다 얘는 다 inner the Islam too.
Now out of these 16, first we will talk about the inner conditions, that because of our attitude, because our way of thinking, our way of looking at life and things like that. So therefore,
치 갱의 미고마치다 난기 갱의 미고마니 치 갱의 미고마다 엔 세상 치 갱의 미고마다 엔 세상 실로 갱
맞아.
네
시기전 죄송해요.
chi gengi mikomba.
Mukompa, that's all.
Ge yor, ting yen shi. Da domni juru yor ba, tini ge shana,
Shik Chenje to Nong Chenje.
re. Sabe chi gengi mikomba ge che, nangi gengi mikomba ge che, dombe geni juru.
So these 16 unfavorable conditions are divided into two. 8 unfavorable conditions based on outer present circumstances, and 8 unfavorable conditions which is based on inner or on our mind that would cut us off from the practice of Dharma.
Tela tangbo chi gengi mikomba ge de karesana.
So what are the 8 outer unfavorable conditions?
Be nyomo shidu chewa, tunga shidu rawa yu juba shidu san, be nyomo ngungyuru, nyomo rakbo shibu juye deba. Tindega be mi karsho be nyomo shukshen ye deba. Tindega jik che tangbo di. Niba di digbe chobo, tindega ngu sin deba. Ta dine sumba di jik taju chinshi lo, sang tongda tawa ketan inare, chöpa inare, digi di beddi chöda beddi gamgera chadya. Daga nashi lelong chewa. Dine ngule ngebe parche yi cho dewa lamro zana mi yu gera bichi. Ngungi lega wangi parche shivji lamro gyone mi karachene ya, dine be kacha nare denge dinde ji. Shenwaan chenyo chen yokburtawa kyuwa siddhusan, shengi wangdu kyun mishindaga yokbuwaan, mishindaga be karshura dachi uwangyurgo wali yebi la tene, ane ko chechaagi ko ka chego samne chemido ba. Tene, che la dodang, kuedang, tindegi yana, 치와 용거리 삼네 진대지가 짜네 최를 슈바 마다베 최를베 학삼 남다게 삼바 남다게 거네 슈바 마인바 머슈바 제제 최 마인바 최반 인도도 전에 주민기베 제바키 된게 되네 닝구르다 년라가 체도베 라마미네 라마 인도도 다나 시지 가주에 바 chubtob minne chubtob yin dongdo che gyugdenge da disu yinbe da chejung gengi se negab gi karsuwe da zuo de chi gen chi gen somar chi gen se na kala khamdo da kada chi gen jibo remi da kada negab gi gen se na dando negab gi gyu gen la dene ane chi chur jubya de kala khabu yin de ba tinde ji ge yon.
So these unfavorable conditions are not necessarily only outer, but unfavorable conditions based on present circumstances. So these are 8. The first is because of our emotional poisons are extremely potent, so that our negative emotions too strong, and that negative emotion is really disturbing ourselves too much. That is the first one. The second one is that we are under the influence of bad companion, corrupted companions. That's the second. The third is that we have false views and practices. And the fourth is we are subject to extreme laziness, that we are very lazy, so therefore we don't have the freedom to practice the Dharma. And the fifth is due to previous bad deeds, a flood of obstacles now advances. Because of our some past reasons, then we have so many negative things coming, so many kind of obstacles coming, that we have no time or no opportunity to spend time on true practice. And then the sixth, we are under the influence or under the control of other people, like if we are a slave or due to some or other reason that we have no freedom to do it ourselves, but we are under the influence or under the control of somebody else. And seventh, enter the Dharma out of such as fear of death, being without a regular. So we are just entering the Dharma because just we need to food or with clothing or for some other reason. We are not practicing Dharma or in the Dharma because we want to transform, but because of some other reason. And then the eighth is we may be in the Dharma or seemingly in the Dharma, but our mind is not for that. And we is insincerely involved in the Dharma. We seek profits or renown, or if I'm not a Lama, but I claim to be Lama. I'm not a realized person, but I claim to be a realized person, and then go about doing the worldly things in form or if through Dharma, and therefore do not really have any interest in practice, actual Dharma practice. So these are the 8 unfavorable conditions that's created by the present circumstances.
다드니 리체 로이 미콤바 시두산에 다디 조지 소수이기 삼동나 사마르베지 딘데 토니 임베자 대량 당부 류롱주라 신자체와 니버디 미시 신도 주베 군주님아 미주부 미tum부 다 민이 딘데지 임베자 코와던 예송의 동에 지점시에게 미자바 타르베 편유 지점시에게 미제바 미게와라 정신기 가와 저거 정신이 고 미게와 지알 가봐야 돼 킬라 짜진바다 최라 미셈바 셈게도 돈베 자와 냠바 라마다 체로라 덤식이 냠바 어다 디주 임비냐 가지고 딱 간다라 텐저뷰가 미홈바 주루되기 ene yebe yimbina che namda ji gyule geto mares magewe dingdo tandongni neya goyang karshwaji nyesong landragi gyuchiri yebe yinzang di gyunse dena ngaju delya ngar sosu gyule ya dinde yebe yina magwebe yina gawagom chinchi mijungwe tabla bezu chegwa kejum.
Then, second, the 8 unfavorable conditions which the mind is cut off from the Dhamma. So that's another unfavorable conditions that will cut off our practice of Dhamma. The first is we have too much desire or attachment for our body or for our wealth. That's the first one. Second, our character or our character is extremely coarse, and all our acts are very mean, and we are not a good person, we are a negative kind of a person. And third one, no matter how much the teacher explains, we do not understand, or we do not have any fear of the negative realms or the results of the negative actions. Fourth, no matter how much the teacher explains, we do not have any faith or any belief in the result of the positive experience or the blessings of the liberation. Fifth, somebody who is naturally delighted, who likes to do unwholesome deeds. And sixth, we are so much inclined to practice Dhamma as a dog is to eat grass. Means we have no interest of any kind to practice Dhamma. Seventh, violates the roots of the bodhisattvas and other vows, that we have violated the root vows of the Bodhisattvas. And eighth, we break the sacred commitments to our Guru and to our Vajra brothers and sisters. So these are the 8 other unfavorable conditions. So now these 16, we need to look in and see whether we are under these 8 influences or not, because if we are under these 16 influences or unfavorable conditions, then not only that we will not be able to practice true or genuine Dharma practice, but then whatever we do, even if we are kind of pretending to be practicing Dharma, it will lead us to lower realms, not for liberation. So therefore, we need to change the situation. We need to break away from that. And if we feel that we are free from these 16 conditions, then we should rejoice and then make sure that these things will not happen with us.
Megomba gelerabe milirubuche ni lo chuzi ye wangge yu chue da sa ge mixo wangbo gonga sawe jilopse da lo ba da ma de jin ge den ge go shu be le ge ta ma lo ne gu zhou sum la ye che be de ba de rang zhong de ji den kam so ma cha xin xi gyang ji den ge kam du ma xi cha jin xi ge sang ge le re zam juan ga wa la ta ri sang ge sha ga du ba de rang sang ge so jue che mi so ba la ta ri ge wa de ta be che sa ge so de ya den ba ma nu bar Tenpa Jama Nuba Tar Yisar. Tenpa di Jesu Juba Ma Simjian Shenda Nagasu Yi Chirin Yin Jungda Debi Chushi Namla Ya Yin Zir Segu Yoje Do Chudin Ge So No Shen Jorunga Jin Joba Joba Chuda Yang Den Simjian Tam Jen Dikbe Le La Rashiki Joba Shada Yin Ji Gewa Cheba Chirin Yo Gewe Nang Ne Gya Milito Jik Surim Sungdo Che Ga Yu Yin Song Sung Ge Lu Sa Chi Bu Ju Zong Yu Gya 他民主啊，新都用带来一家全电影美轮的系统上面，买的别那独立这个我都不是自己的把有，健康这个我那自己的被买买，带来确实被买上些咱们来买，带来一家确最近这把你们干嘛当着绿点点美剧图中沙套样式所跟机关那往下面气味干嘛，顺便给你细水一把那乌卡完的。 七对能对给开来买买去出国来干这个啦，天呐，他的天就是特别没路不去，你到那店内面呢，你对面都当嘛着屯主旅的不是那长寿，他不到爬上，门里多几怎么样？对面是别定年送给有忙不行，胸中都啥都没路的了，的了，找不上给一恐怕要住女不能多呗，屯项目的天啊太脏，屯面去是当中，这点把他们家铺给掉了，点了菜多。 说那么说啦，家里吃这么多，大概叫我点点对么子不啦？看起人瑞总是人呀，没那本的人瑞多少，旅游旅多，他那你们的人说特别少，可能了真的退没些人家都样讲，这样吃我吃多鱼，要不然来着说的，叫我们的确实为来着有问题样，确实那么看了，恐怕的说的这老不的，个别来设备大人家他的这边确实讲了起码的。 去来去年说嘛，都米里头没有的3年半落来，看明年叫我个看上去的看见了，几位长辈就把说那么接触，没有你别超别接触，就把他牛毛把人怎么着，车前面东西了，就把他牛毛别什么着把他来了的音乐去了大多也，上个一个来说个就是没就把他老板单位接触，就把他老板单位他们都就把接触别太大了，怕也不得瞧，在那米里的。 中国社会俺亲俺给，俺认真俺准是现在你把大学谈了是不是了？你把没用的，主要他们这的信息呗，你不建议别说，现在别那民间产的就那么垃圾，起码一大个说给没得给讲，成都有个什么啦，他不是他把的是什么看了有最起的的，这边这路径是给我了，我前面这边都被现给全送我的没讲。 长什么来？你别给把忙不？你别东西用了准备，怎么差他们一样嘛？台湾那价格没旅店家看啥台湾他们的，你不共享进写了一可穷， 컵충어 저기 귤라 삼유치든 라 저거 계획이 데 마제베 탑게베 라마다 미르발람 르르자 총이 송조사 따금 어제 망해바고 시럽기 컵단이지세 대묘된경매 신자 중 최권나 섬섬을 제대로가 개발제 개와디 지저베르제 연도베 탑론 미관나조라 말업게 된게 어제 토법도 된베 처바와 샤중 소매바오 다 간다래 되게베 다 도나 되다 도도디 최주베게 가긴 류댕기 차네 최주베 가긴 탐제다 대 튠진 탐제 좀 되베 내금들이야 안는 아주기 다 가르쳐야지 매주 지규면은 마도 매주 전에 다 가르쳐야지 가르쳐야 다 튠진 주야 주고야 계셔버려.
In short, that when we have all the unfavorable conditions are not there, we are free from all these unfavorable conditions, and we have all the favorable conditions, all the opportunities and the right conditions that we can actually practice Dharma, we can work on transforming ourselves, and we can do something that's really worthwhile, beneficial, useful, that we can do something really great for ourselves and others. When we understand this, when we have that situation, it becomes extremely important that we should actually act on it and try to do our best without postponing the practice of Dharma.
근데 인규산에 다 니랑 숨바는 신가라도 되게베 밀루 상고지 톱시 가르쇼에 din milui topche da 가르쇼 di 가르쇼 디면 가서 인지게 되면 간다르 랑도르 조아시 현다 민저베 지 랑도르기 네 상부 가리바 네급 상부 점이바 지 푸경 진부기 상해 여완 제투야기 뉴바스는 자도 시럽스는 자도 다 레바스는 자도 당하라 줄이야 조아밀이야 튜모메 미케주 드르비 요아레 텐더 미케주 드르 예바디 배주에 당하네 아주 점물린들이야 아주 펜버 주비아지기 체도 로르 마도베 나솔림 로미지리 딘디지 예바텔 댄체 엔지 심진 신달이야 된 딘데비 남주 매비 심진 신달마 베 체수체 대달라 통중당 딘디 자체도 말해 로미디 버지 딘데 남주 예과디 아니 버지 아주 지금 점물린디 송주자 소로지 야나 펜버 주비아로 딘디지 체도 임베레 다 버지 지긴 쳐보로 켈렘비나 버지 지긴 쳐보 아주 밀리야 딘데 레바 수행샤디 점물린네 펜도요아지다디 점물린디 톨이야 한다지 그다 소 초투베 사이콜라 다다바도 친리베 딘디지 무슨 때문에 개념이요 말에 디마도베 다다 베 가르쳐다지 다 가르쳐 동숭기 지된 칸나로 되다 녀요 말에 녀메 인자 난 딘디게 송딩이 기우 네베 지 세 콜란디베 숭급쟁이야 소로지 근데 이제 면로 남아지 가시 딱 간다래 가서 딘데 밀리지 타버디 펜버 줘야지 셴펜 펜버 줘야지 제대로 로로 마도베 텔라 때네 지금 아주 캐수치 시나 캐수치 녀바치 아가리죠 그래 아주 좋아 미기 지 장인 주행이나 때네 아주 지 스시를 모르고 지기 토리아 예대베게 미상월로 안 가서다 딘 돈주 망고 시부지랑 아주 녀주시 나르주당 안디주기 가서 빠바슈 샤세 차동 안디주기 대시성 성원은 니시 사사도 초 잡을 제래 다는 신 치 쿠유디줄이야 신주 사고 돌로다 당 망치 제셔 다들 가르쳐 나도 밀레 남자의 인사 미직 재신의 인사 남자의 인사 대표주 당한테 자면도 로버적이 제셔 되게 희한한 사월에 타마들 따간다 아 좋아 미디 좋아 미코랑기 매버스라기 다들 되게 년섭 심부시다 해야 돼 도시미 디규전 때네 나랑도 좋아 밀리아 되게 남자의 되버디 배주 로벌 만들어지 배주 양다버지를 넣어야 돼 개점시라래 대 개점이 미준전 때네 텐조는 얘가 딱 한다 람림 강갈라 걸려야 텐조는 얘가 망고 시에 돼야지 준전은 어디 하나 아주리야 다가다 드지기 긴지지 봐 세드치기 알아성도
And that we have these right conditions, precious conditions, is because we have this very special ability. We have a very special intelligence that we can see what we can do to benefit, for long-term benefit. We can understand. We have this brain. We have this capacity. We have a special kind of intelligence. And we are a species that's very special. Although there are so many planets and so many things, in the world, in the space, in the universe, the scientists have not yet found something like Earth so far, where these human beings exist. So we have the capacity to understand, to think, to innovate, to do something really helpful and beneficial to lots of things and other people and ourselves and things like that. But when we have that capacity, we should not use it to harm something. We should not use it to destroy. But sometimes we do. Look at how we treat the animals. We do so much atrocities on the animals. We eat their flesh. We drink their blood. We take away their place of living, and we kind of make them extinct. And not only that, but we also harm each other. We cut the trees. We destroy our environment. And in fact, we actually create circumstances that we actually destroy our own race in the end. So those who believe in the Creator, we have to say that we have this brain, we have this intelligence that God has given, the Creator has given us this capacity, and not to destroy each other and not to create harm and not to do something bad, but must have given this so that we can do some great benefit and great useful things and helpful things for each other and for the long term. So therefore, we need to understand this, and we need to use this capacity, use this brain, use this intelligence in order to, help each other, help ourselves, and help everybody else, and really work on it, do something great, because we have that great capacity. So when we talk about precious human life, it's about that we have these capacities, we have these opportunities, we have all these facilities and favorable circumstances, and therefore we need to use it in the right way. We should not use it in the wrong way. We should not use it to harm each other and lots of everything else. So when, therefore, this kind of the teachings or reflections on the precious human life, you find everywhere. You find in all the teachings, in all the reflections, whichever yana, whichever type of instructions you go through, you will also always find these reflections and these instructions in the beginning, because I think that we should not use this capacity or intelligence in the wrong way. We should use it in the right way so that we can be of great benefit and we can do something really great and useful for all. If I talk only about Dharma, maybe you are bored. So I will tell a story.
Mashi te yawe orda zhungshe zhali. Karajan ruba gwini la mikashi jige chue ji naro ji shu des. Ane ruba gwini chue nge chue she pe me, chue shing shing me. Chue shing e de la yana ni sosu gyue me bichi kwaras. Tene ngal me ngala gyue mangu yos. Yana ni sosu ri gyue yube ne gyue di pa be ni haba tsa bichi kwa. Te ngala me se. 제가 당에 최시심에 중지시에 줘. 된다도도 중디 최래. 중고라 최래. 다 디소제다 중지시에나. 다 중세나다 우리 내래 아주고만디 구육이 총도 당부 와르던스래야 처배 거리야. 다디 주제 가셔. 디난 주제지디 애니멀 둔주고래. 둔주고 계시. 다 다디서 배 개점 못했어. 자, 그나 방글 방글 다디서 배 진상 배 진이 소사로 차딩어. 지글에 예외 소사 차딩어. 제가 대수 숨좀 제가 개점 버렸어. 디고랑 아주 눌린체. 디류산에 아니 디나 촌들이 총미 가시 촌들이 쉬고 총미 가시 다들 총미 처음에 다들 야문 신앙성 심지 신앙성도 아니 왜 저거사 안다나지 라와사 샤와사 심지니 지린지 산도도 다들 숨좀 지금인도 사 다들 맨 가도 맨 시디 심지 망볼래 시디 통고도 아들 계시야 디두산에 아니 디걸 쿠루 거리아 organize 제 기지신이 조르죠래 WWF 레가 챙기지요래 데네 모란디 디즈 갈레르스카 다고주 디바다 모란 딸 숨줍자 가워요 다이네 고조 잡아디줄래 제비지 시에도 sana 시다 닝음도 오죠 다 추가 돈은 지 시에고 디 메시라랑 시에 마시체 다지 갈레르스카 녜자요 다디 개체 뭐 이메 추가 돈 마치 시에요 말했어 데네 촌도 니베 추베 걸이야 데네 니마질이야 규주셔죠 다디 개체 뭐 이메 준제 다 최소한의 다 개체 뭐 이메 준제 시작하자 윤제 시라시아스 그러면 디나네 전주선바 따라 짐바 따면 루주시에 다데 진짜 개체 보면 전주선바도 소소 루지마 따시라 봤을 때다 뭐부가시죠 데 시로치 두산에 아니 전주선바 루지마 따시라 다 진짜 개체 보면 아니 전주선바 루지마 땅과 민도 가사지 근데 지시하죠 엔다지 담데지 어디 딩에는 지시하다 뭐랑다 다데 개체 보면 윤제는 연한 매나로디 디걸 가르치야 되잖아. 도지 돌려라. 다 집에 알아. 대 다제 도지 돌려 다 집에 안 두었어. 다음엔 도지 돌려 집에 와 말았어. 집에 와 말았어. 강당한 도게 했어. 당에 라이 도지 돌려기 집에 다들 땅원에라 인지 말았어. 주변에 다 인기는 도지. 간다 드제기 계지 shumare.
So, sometimes the stories and anecdotes are also very useful because once some people went and asked Drukpa Kunle, the great saint from Bhutan, to give some teachings. And then the Drukpa Kunle was not really Drukpa, not really Bhutanese, but he was a great Drukpa Kaju saint. So some people went and asked him to give some teachings. And then he said, no, I can't give you any teachings, because to give teachings, you should have two qualities. Either you have no fault for yourself, there is no fault, you don't have any fault, then only you can give teachings. Or secondly, you have lots of faults, but you know how to hide them so that nobody knows your faults, then only you can give teachings. I am neither of them. I have lots of faults and I openly show them, so I cannot give any teachings. I cannot give any teachings, but I can tell stories. So then he told stories, and those stories became real teachings. So the story I want to tell is about this, that we used to have Koryuk, this environmental, project that we have, conferences. We used to have Koryuk conferences. And in one of those Koryuk conferences, we talked about the animals. We discussed about the animals. And one of the subject was about the tiger, how to preserve the tiger, because, the Bengal tigers are about to be extinct. And so therefore, we were discussing those things. And then there were lots of monks who didn't understand that, who didn't agree. There was one person who was in charge of these discussions, a person from WWF. So when she was talking about this, how important it is to preserve the tiger and that they don't become extinct, the monks said, the tigers, no problem if they extinct, because they're not good. They eat other nice animals like deers and things like that, and they harm lots of other animals. So if they go extinct, there's no problem. It's good. So she didn't have any, when she talked about science or scientific ways, the monks was not very interested, or they didn't agree. So therefore, she was in a fix. She couldn't really convince them. So therefore, then she came to me and asked me, please say something that why we need to preserve the tigers from the Dhamma point of view. Because the only thing she could say from the Dhamma point of view why the tigers need to be preserved was that Dorje Tröle, the Guru Rinpoche called Dorje Tröle, form of Dorje Tröle, the wrathful form of the Guru Rinpoche, had a tiger as his right. So she said that because Dorje Tröle has tiger as his right, so the tiger must be very important. But then I told her that maybe that's not a real tiger. So she was a little bit in a fix. So when she asked me to talk about the importance of tiger from the Dhamma point of view, I also didn't have so many points. What I said was that we have this Jataka story where the Bodhisattva gave his body, offered his body to a hungry tiger. So I said that, this Bodhisattva offered his body to a hungry tiger, and if the tiger is not important from the Dhamma point of view, why should Bodhisattvas, sacrifice his life to save this tiger? That was more or less the only thing I could say.
신안 사고를 통고로 봐. 심지 신안 사고를. 치, 고, 다 용도大的吧就不就，告诉吧，每个同事都要用来，就我长大了去了吧。他以内啊，我呢这能技术中哎，身边的所来都什么大了，技术中身边的还是没人，啊，这甚至大的是的说，我那他那个，他下来呢，或许就没开始晒头用。现在到当中米给多米给，他就村里拉在了，就他上边出来要了，他岸边出来，这也给了当然就是啥呢？他被上下个人啥同学嘛不，被嘎下嘎下进来买不说呀给，听这个村长说啥嘞？啊，他那是大概，他那是自己个人咱们的说呢呗，咱们的这个大概那个就上面那了呗，看出来上面都要你忙不说啥嘞？ 제가 뒤균선 때네 가당 아주지 조밀기 점불링기 가서다지 뽕부로 된 조미체 체네 딱한다 베 가서 온규로 차산체 내려 재산 디급이야 아주 조미 상에 삼로 리버지 당나 마도베 아주 조미 차주를 당 때네 심지 망부지리야 심지 가서 빠도 매바 장매바 체매바지리야 동해 시부지 대야지당 아니 가수에 타는 아랑 주기 좋은 미기 다 미르지마스는 장도 미르규스는 장도 들리냐 내가 태야로 내가 참 알레도 인상 뒤균선 때네 아주 미링어를 참여기 수수는 좋은 미르된 토바디 가수에 다스 가수에 지금 아메코베나는 마 토연두산의 기니 요샤베서 좀 많이 be제제 다가다 수술이야 긴지지 대베지다 하바르동 안 소리야 상인 예완 제투야기 뉴버스는 남주지 제비 인두산에 제 장륜 지부셔도 많이 봐 아니 지 가수에 심지 망고지게 된다리야 지 배주 동토버지다 팬들도 그러지 진지지게 체 배주 동 최고가 근데 충분히나 신의 미지 되는 데마사 근데 제제 네 여러 마도베 셰 미지 되는 데마사디 지 오늘들은 전에 가서다 다 망부샤시면 드레지스 갈레르지 가서 유샤나
So actually this is not about the tigers. It's about the human beings. Usually when we see a tiger or a bear or a leopard or something like that, we think that they are very fearsome. If we see a tiger, quite a distance, just one tiger also, we are very afraid and things like that. But they are not so dangerous. They can, at the most, kill one or two people. More than that, they cannot do much harm. But the real kind of beings or the race that we have to be truly afraid of are the human beings. Of course, we human beings have done some good things also. But if you look at the bad things that we have done, then, we have done so many bad things. We destroy and we inflict harm on so many beings, so many animals. We even, have created weapons that could, totally, eliminate billions of beings in 1 second. And we have made so many poisonous things and all these kind of things, so destructive and negative things. And then we are actually the kind of the most powerful being on this earth. And so therefore, we need to really think about our role, our responsibilities, what we are doing. Because not only that we are inflicting so much pain and harm and and problems to lots of other beings, but we are also inflicting and creating causes and conditions to harm ourselves, our own future generations. So therefore, when we understand this, when we need to think about this, and when we see this clearly, we really have to take responsibilities. Each and every individual of us, all of us, have to really take responsibilities and see what I can do to help, to do something really beneficial, not just for myself, but for others, for everybody. It's not that when we are born, we are just like, the waste that we can just throw everywhere. It's not like that. We are precious human beings. So therefore, we need to take responsibility on how to transform our life and how to use this intelligent life, what we call human beings, in such a way that it could be of great help and can do lots of benefit to lots of beings on this earth. And so this is, if we can do that, if we can do something that would bring happiness, well-being, benefit to lots of beings, then only we can say that our life was meaningful, our life was useful. Other than that, we waste our life.